Today we're going to compare two interesting modern polymer pistols, and that's the new PMR 30 from Kel-Tec, which is a 30 round capacity 22 Magnum, and then we've got the FN57, which is a 20 round capacity. Obviously these have looks only a mother could love, but getting past the overall appearance, there's lots of similarities and a couple of differences. Let's start out with something easy, the ammunition. So the 5.7 shoots the 5x7, 5.7x28, and then the Kel-Tec shoots this 22 Magnum. Let's take a look at some of the differences. First off, of course, the Magnum is a rim fire, so it's got a rim on the case and no primer, where the 5.7 has a recessed rim and a primer. Of course, the 5.7 also is necked, so it tapers down here with this shoulder. Some of the similarities are they both shoot a 40 grain bullet, and the speeds coming out of a pistol are very comparable. On the paper, you're looking usually around 1800 feet per second or so, and I'm not a ballistics expert, so generally though, people say that the pistols aren't too different from 5.7x28 and the 22 Magnum. Taking a look at their magazines, they're both polymer bodies, polymer floor plates, polymer followers, of course metal springs inside. The PMR 30 has witness holes but no numbers or anything. The witness holes are just on one side. The 5.7 has witness holes and numbers to give you an idea of how many rounds are left, and again only on one side. They both seem fairly strong, but nowhere as hardy as like a Glock magazine, which is metal with plastic on the outside. These are just plastic. Obviously they're sort of wide, and that's a function of the rounds that go into them. On the PMR 30 you have a European style mag release, which is down here at the bottom. Kind of push that in to release the mag, which isn't the worst, but it's different than we're used to. On the 5.7, it has a more standard American style with a pretty robust spring to pop them out of there. Obviously, drop-free magazines. So the overall shapes are very similar. Large trigger groove, large trigger guards there. They both have the 1913 style rail. You can see the extra grooves, where something like a Glock, for example, just usually only has the one groove in it. It just gives you a little more options depending on various lights from different models and manufacturers you might find. As far as overall dimensions, they're very similar. If we line the sight radiuses up, even though they're in different places on the slides, they do line up to be just about dead on accurate as far as the same length. And looking at the controls on the Kel-Tec, your safety is ambidextrous, but all your other controls, well, there's just really the slide lock and the safety on the right side, on the left side of the frame, and then, like I say, the European style mag release. Where on the 5.7, your safety is up here by your trigger finger, and it's safe and shoot. And then you've got a slide lock back here, which is easy to get to, but it's only on the left side. So for right-handed, your mag release is back here, and again it's only on the left side for right-handed shooters. And then it's got a takedown lever up here that is unique to this one. The sights themselves, let's take a look at the 5.7. It's simply 3 white dots, 2 in the back, 1 up front. Fairly high sight post, and pretty easy to acquire on a dark surface, not too bad on a light surface. Now the PMR 30 has a set of fiber optic style sights, so they gather light from the top here, and then they kind of display it into the back. And I'm going to use a flashlight here to illustrate that. This isn't the brightest room, but as I shine a light on the front sight post there, it sort of lights up, and that'll be more pronounced. Now it doesn't keep it like a glow in the dark, but you can see that it gathers the light from the top here and then pushes it out the back. And the same with these back ones. You can see they're pretty hard to see there, and once there's some light coming down from the top, they lighten right up. So again, if you're outside, the idea is that you've got plenty of light to gather. If you're indoors like this, you know, the light coming down from the ceiling should gather it. And again, you can see how well they work. The ammo for the 22 Magnum is going to run you somewhere around $10 to $12 a box of 50, where the ammo for the 5.7 is going to run you more like $25 to $30 for a box of 50. So you're talking twice as much for ammo in this one. Price of gun is going to cost you anywhere from $350 to $400 for this one. You're talking more like $1,000 to $1,200 for this one. So definitely the higher priced and the lower priced. When you're talking about actual performance, not a heck of a lot of difference between the 5.7 and the 22 Magnum. So for a lot of shooters, if these were a little bit more available, these would be a definite option for you. As far as the weight, on the 5.7 it's about 1 pound 7.2 ounces, and if we go to the PMR 30, then that one is more like 15.2 ounces. 15.2 ounces. Even though the FNP feels like a lightweight pistol, it's definitely heavier. The weight of 50 rounds of ammo, and of course there's some weight here for the box, is about 8.8 ounces, and the 5.7 by 28 is about 12 ounces, and this is the paper box, so a little bit of difference in the weight of the ammo as well. Now let's take a look at this distance. There's a couple of things to keep in mind. First would be the distance from the back of the grip to the front of the trigger, and that's just over 3 inches on the 5.7, and it's just a little under 3 inches on the PMR 30. The next thing to consider is the distance around here. Best way I can come up with to measure that is I'm going to take this piece of tape and just put it down, bring the do it right on the highest point of the swell there, and then we'll just bring the tape around, and you can see it's this mark. So we'll mark this one at PMR 30. So that's the PMR 30. And then we'll do the same thing on the 5.7. We'll find the highest part of the swell there. We'll come around, and it's actually a little bit longer than this mark, but that's close enough for government work here. And we'll put 5.7 there. Now if we take a look at those together, we can see that the 5.7 is just a hair longer than the PMR 30. Let's go ahead and measure that. The PMR 30 is right around 5.5 inches around, and the 5.7 is just about 6 inches around. Overall dimensions, again, they're basically the same on the barrel length and the grip length. The 5.7 is just a hair thicker than the 30, and again just a bit larger. Take another look down their sights there. 5.7, PMR 30. Just some insignificant stuff. 5.7s have this lame sticker on the top with a barcode, and there are serial numbers on the side here inside the rail. Just seems a little odd to me, where the PMR 30 serial is in the back here on the frame, and just not as full of stickers. Taking a look from the bottom here, the grips aren't exactly the same. This one's, I guess, more egg shape, where this one's a little bit more wedge shape, and that's definitely something you can tell when you're shooting it. If we take a look at the front, you can see how smooth and narrow the HMR 30 is compared to the wide and textured grip of the 5.7. Now let's talk about the ergonomics. For a right-handed shooter, I'm not left-handed, so I can only give you my impression of the left hand, but I can give you my right-handed opinions. I've shot both of them quite a few times now. This one a little bit more than the 30, just because this one's so new to the market. But first off, there's some really nice texturing. You can see that it's checkered and pretty aggressive. You know, and something like this in polymer, you can always wipe that down with some sandpaper if it's too aggressive for you. But you know, as a contrast, on the 30, there's really not much. It's the typical like waffle pattern that Kel-Tec gives you, and while it offers some amount of grip, it's definitely not a stippled or textured grip at all. It's very smooth, and you can feel the lines in the molding. And I felt that, you know, as soon as I got to the range, this seam is evident. You know, this isn't sanded or anything. It's there like a cheap toy or something, which doesn't add to its overall, you know, quality feel. So in this one, you can tell the difference. There's really no seams anywhere, and if they are, they're not as obvious, or they're trimmed out a little bit better. Okay, so back to the ergonomics. This one has a, you know, a shape to it. There's a thumb groove on both sides. So for a left-handed shooter, you know, your finger is going to rest on that groove there. It's not too difficult to get to the mag release. Left-handed, of course, obviously it's easy. Right-handed. The safety on the 5.7 is definitely a little easier to deal with. Both sides. There's a tactile and an audible click. So real safe as far as its features. Its hold open is not too hard to get to. Right for me, it's in my knuckle, which means for a smaller-handed person, it's going to be right there. And as far as for dropping it, same thing, not too hard to get to. Now there is a little difference. If we notice on the slide here, the majority of the slide can be grabbed and used for manipulation on the 5.7, where on the 30, it's the top. And I mentioned that when I first started shooting it, that you only really grab the very top of the slide here, and that's a little awkward when your hand is used to grabbing the whole top of your frame. As far as the controls, the safety on the PMR 30 is way back here, so it's not difficult, but it's just in a place that you're not familiar with. At least I'm not familiar with. Might not be a big deal for people, but it's a difference between these two. Another thing that you'll notice is that these are very smooth, so while it lends itself to consistency on both sides, it's equally not comfortable, or equally not as comfortable for the left-handed or the right-handed shooter. The nice thing about a European magazine release is that it's going to be ambidextrous by default, since it's at the bottom there. I wouldn't consider this a combat pistol, so can't complain too much about the ergonomics. As far as the new shooter, this might be a little wide for him, but since it's smaller than this one probably would be a little more comfortable for a new shooter. One final thing about the sights, on the PMR 30, they're not adjustable. They're where you get them, and up front there is a dovetail, but you know, it's not going to be something that you can just easily drift back and forth, I suspect. And on the back, I don't see any adjustments at all. Sort of molded into the top of the frame or the slide there, where on the 5.7 there are windage and elevation adjustments to be made on the rear, and the front is just a standard post. So overall, you're looking at about 3 times the price for the FN, and ammo availability can be an issue with the 5.7 by 28. Not every big box store is going to have that for you. Most stores are going to carry some version of 22 Magnum, and while I haven't shot it enough to find any problems with reliability, you know, assuming that it works and it's fairly reliable, you're probably going to be a lot easier to find ammunition for the PMR 30. So that's a long-winded comparison between the two pistols. Thanks for watching.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.